3 months ago, I was living in a $4.2 million house in California with my wife and kids. Today, I'm staring at a letter that makes me question everything I thought I knew about my life. Every certainty, every memory, every comforting lie I held on to. Gone. My name is James Callahan, and I'm 47. Until recently, I worked as a commercial insurance adjuster in Pasadena, helping people rebuild after tragedy. I was good at my job because I understood pain, but nothing could prepare me for my own. On the outside, my life looked perfect. A beautiful wife, Eleanor, whom I had loved and been married to for 18 years. A son, Ethan, 16, and a daughter, Leela, 14, both brilliant and full of life. We lived in a sprawling house perched in the hills, overlooking the glittering city below. Every morning, I'd sip coffee by the window, thinking, this is it, the life most men dream of. I thought I knew who I was. James Callahan, son of Margaret Callahan, a quiet librarian who raised me alone after my father died when I was 12. My father, so I was told, was an ordinary man, hardworking, kind, and gone too soon. My mother's life had been modest, but she filled it with care, laughter, and small rituals that made me feel safe. Birthdays celebrated with homemade cakes, photo albums organized by year, nightly stories before bed. Even when I was a teen, she made ordinary days feel extraordinary. Eleanor had been my high school sweetheart, ambitious, stunning, and fiercely independent. She had swept me off my feet at 16. We grew up together, married at 22, and built a life, brick by brick. Our kids were our pride. Ethan, the athlete with the quiet confidence, and Leela, the artist, with a way of seeing the world I could never fully understand. I loved them fiercely enough to believe nothing could ever touch our family. For 47 years, this was my story, until it wasn't. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly. Eleanor started receiving calls she'd taken the other room, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. She'd come home later and later, exhausted but smiling politely, never explaining where she had been. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was stress, work pressure, but there was a change in her eyes, a coldness, a calculation I had never seen before. The first real warning came when Ethan asked, "Dad, why does Mom look at you like she doesn't know you anymore?" His words, innocent yet piercing, cut deeper than anything else. Leela stopped talking about school, retreating into her sketches filled with shadows and broken families. Then the letters arrived. Divorce papers. Claims that I was reckless, financially irresponsible, unfit for custody. The details were horrifying. According to her lawyer, I was a gambler hiding massive debts, incapable of raising our children. None of it was true, but the evidence she presented seemed airtight. Bank statements I'd never seen, witnesses I'd never met, receipts for things I didn't buy. I watched my life unravel in the courtroom. The judge granted Eleanor everything, our house, primary custody, even my business assets. It felt like being buried alive while everyone around me continued breathing. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor leaned close and whispered something I will never forget. "You'll never see Ethan and Leela again. I'm moving them to Portland next month, and you can't stop me." I couldn't. I was powerless. With nowhere else to turn, I drove back to Ohio, to the house my mother had left behind when she passed 2 years ago. Driving 3 days across the country, I felt each mile dragging me further from a life I no longer recognized. The California skyline faded behind me, replaced by the quiet, familiar streets of my childhood. Pulling into my mother's driveway, everything seemed frozen in time. White siding, black shutters, a front porch with 2 chairs, and the faint smell of lilacs from the neighbor's garden. I sat in the car, heart pounding, staring at a life that felt impossibly small compared to what I had lost. 3 months ago, I looked down at the glittering lights of Los Angeles. Now, I was staring at garden gnomes and a mailbox covered in peeling paint. Inside the house, dust lay thick on the furniture, memories frozen in amber. The smell of old books and lavender lingered, my mother's scent. I ran my fingers along the bookshelf she had always insisted be dusted weekly, and a photo fell into my lap. Me at 12, smiling awkwardly, standing next to my father I barely remembered. Then I noticed it. A drawer, slightly open in her desk. A small envelope, yellowed with age, addressed to me. No stamp, no sender. Just my name. The moment I touched it, a chill ran down my spine. I didn't know what it contained, but something deep inside warned me. This was the start of the real story, the secrets Mom had kept, the truths Eleanor had hidden, and perhaps the danger that had been waiting all along, just for me.
I stared at the envelope in my hands, fingers trembling. The paper was brittle, edges yellowed with age, like it had been waiting decades to be opened. My heartbeat echoed in the empty house, each thump a reminder that nothing would ever be simple again. I had no idea what to expect. Could it be a letter from my mother before she died? A secret she had kept hidden all these years? Or something else? The thought made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. With a deep breath, I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in my mother's delicate handwriting. But the words were nothing I could have anticipated. "James," it began, "if you are reading this, it means the world you knew has already begun to crumble. There are things about your father, about me, that you must know. Your life has always been safer than you think, because of what we hid from you. But now, everything changes." My hands shook as I read. My father? Hidden truths? What had she been protecting me from all these years? I sank into the armchair by the window, trying to steady my breathing, but the questions kept piling up like stones on my chest. The letter continued. "You are not just James Callahan, the insurance adjuster, the father of two, the husband. There are things in your blood, secrets that were passed down to you without your knowledge. If Eleanor has betrayed you, if the court has turned against you, you must find the truth. Begin with the old house in Pasadena. There is a safe behind the painting in the study. Inside is what your father left for you. Everything else will make sense when you find it." I dropped the letter. My vision blurred. A safe? My father? And Pasadena? Everything I thought I knew about my family, my life, my father, it was unraveling faster than I could process. My mother had always seemed ordinary, gentle, protective. But now her words screamed of secrets, danger, and a past I had never imagined. The phone rang, cutting through the thick silence. I jumped, heart hammering. On the other end, a voice I didn't recognize whispered, "James, don't trust anyone, not even your wife." Before I could respond, the line went dead. My hands went cold. Was this connected to my mother's letter, or was it just the mind playing tricks on me in this lonely house? I didn't know, but something deep inside told me danger was real and it was closer than I thought. I spent hours sitting in that chair going over every memory of my father, trying to see the hidden signs. Why had he died when I was 12? Why had my mother never spoken about him? And what exactly had she left behind for me in Pasadena? By midnight, I knew what I had to do. I had to return, to face Eleanor, to uncover the truth my parents had hidden, to confront the safe behind the painting in my California home. I packed what little I had, a backpack with clothes, my wallet, and the letter folded carefully in my pocket. My mind raced with questions, fear, and a strange growing excitement. Whatever secrets lay behind that safe, they could change everything, possibly destroy everything, or, finally, give me the answers I had been denied my entire life. As I closed the door behind me, I paused for a moment and looked at the moonlight reflecting on the lilacs outside. I whispered to myself, "Mom, tell me you were right. Tell me I'm ready for this." But even as I spoke, a shadow moved past the window. Something, or someone, was watching. I didn't know it yet, but the journey that awaited me would not just uncover family secrets. It would reveal dangers I had never imagined, betrayals that cut deeper than any court ruling, and a truth that could change everything about who I was. And just like that, my life had shifted from ordinary grief to a nightmare of suspense and hidden truths. The flight to California felt endless. Every cloud outside the window seemed to whisper secrets I wasn't ready to hear. My mind kept replaying my mother's letter, the mysterious phone call, and the shadow at the window. Nothing made sense, yet everything felt urgent. By the time I landed, the sun was setting. The orange glow cast long shadows across the streets, and the familiar sights of Pasadena felt alien. My heart pounded as I drove to the old house, the place I hadn't seen in over a decade. Memories hit me in waves, my father's laughter echoing down the hallway, the smell of my mother's cooking, and the painting in the study I had barely noticed as a child. I parked in front of the house. Dust covered the windows, the garden had overgrown, and the house groaned under the weight of years. It looked abandoned, but I knew better. My mother's letter had made it alive with secrets. Inside, the air smelled of old wood and forgotten time. I moved slowly, as if the house itself was watching me. Each step echoed loudly, bouncing off walls lined with old family portraits. My father's eyes in the frames seemed to follow me, judging, waiting. Finally, I reached the study. The painting, an abstract of blues and grays, hung slightly crooked. My mother's words rushed back. "Behind the painting, you'll find the safe." My hands trembled as I slid the painting aside. There it was, a steel safe, cold and unyielding, a simple dial, a lock that had held secrets for decades. My pulse quickened. I had no combination, no clue, except for a cryptic note at the bottom of my mother's letter. "Think of your father's favorite date." I tried every date I could remember. His birthday, mine, my mother's birthday. Nothing. Each failure made the room feel heavier, the shadows longer. Then it hit me. The day they met. The date my mother had often mentioned in quiet whispers. I held my breath, dialed it slowly, and click. The safe door creaked open. Inside, I found a small box, velvet-lined. My hands shook as I lifted the lid. Inside was a stack of letters, photographs, and a key. Not just any key, an old, ornate key, carved with strange symbols. I didn't recognize the symbols, but something about them made my skin crawl. The letters were addressed to me, written by my father. My fingers trembled as I read the first one. "James, if you are reading this, it means you are ready. The world you know is only the surface. The real truth, the danger, and the legacy we carry, it all starts here. Trust no one, not even those closest to you. This key will open doors you didn't know existed. But beware, once opened, nothing can be undone." My hands went cold. I looked around the study, suddenly aware of every creak, every shadow. The house no longer felt like home. It felt like a trap. And then I heard it. A faint creak from upstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was in the house. I froze. The letters dropped from my hands. Heart racing, I realized the journey my mother's letter had begun was far from over. The secrets in the safe were only the beginning. Someone else knew I was here. Someone was waiting. I gripped the key tightly. Whatever lay ahead, I had to face it. But the truth I was about to uncover would test everything I thought I knew about my family, my life, and myself. The house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for me to take the next step into a mystery that could consume me entirely.
The footsteps upstairs stopped suddenly, but the silence that followed was worse. My heart thumped so loudly I was certain it would give me away. Clutching the key, I edged toward the staircase, each step careful, deliberate. The letters on the floor rustled with every movement, reminding me of what I had just discovered, secrets that could change everything. A shadow moved across the hallway above. Someone was definitely there. I wanted to call out, but my voice wouldn't work. Fear, sharp and cold, gripped me. Then a whisper, a low, deliberate sound, almost a warning. "James." The voice sent a chill down my spine. I froze. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. My mind raced. Who could know I was here? And how did they get in? My mother's warning echoed in my head. Trust no one. I reached for a heavy candlestick on the side table, gripping it like a weapon. The key felt unnaturally heavy in my pocket, almost as if it carried the weight of the secrets it unlocked. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I knew I couldn't leave. Not yet. A door upstairs creaked open. Slowly, deliberately, someone began descending the staircase. Each step seemed to echo like a drumbeat, announcing the arrival of something dangerous. My breath caught. My palms were slick with sweat. And then I saw him. Or rather, a figure. A man, tall, dressed in dark clothes, his face hidden in shadow. But there was something about his stance, the way he moved, that made my blood run cold. He wasn't here to talk. "You shouldn't have come back," the man said, calm, almost cold. "Some truths are better left buried." I raised the candlestick, trying to appear braver than I felt. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man chuckled, low and menacing. "I want what your father left behind, and now that you have the key, you've become part of this, whether you like it or not." Before I could react, he lunged. I swung the candlestick, narrowly missing his shoulder. He moved with unnatural speed. My instinct screamed for me to run, but the only exit was through the study, and that was behind him. I grabbed the key from my pocket, remembering my father's letter. This key will open doors you didn't know existed. I didn't know what doors it meant, but I had a sudden, desperate idea. I bolted toward the wall safe, fumbling with the key. The intruder advanced, and I felt his presence behind me like a shadow of death. I slid the key into a small, hidden keyhole I hadn't noticed before, an odd, almost invisible door behind the safe. With a click, it opened. Without thinking, I jumped through the narrow passage. Darkness swallowed me, and I landed hard on cold stone. The intruder's frustrated shout echoed behind me, then silence. I was in a tunnel, narrow, damp, and twisting deep beneath the house. My heart pounded, but my mind raced faster. The letters, the key, the intruder, it was all connected. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I knew one thing. My life had just changed forever. And somewhere above, the intruder waited, knowing I had uncovered the first layer of a secret that was never meant to be found. The shadows of the past were no longer just memories. They were alive, dangerous, and hunting me.
The tunnel was dark, damp, and smelled of earth and old stone. Every step echoed like a warning, each breath misting in the chilly air. I pressed the key tightly in my hand, as if it were a lifeline rather than a piece of metal. The letters my father left behind, the intruder's warning, it all came together in a terrifying puzzle I was only beginning to understand. I moved cautiously, trying to stay silent, but my nerves betrayed me with a shiver. The walls were narrow, forcing me to duck and twist. Somewhere, water dripped steadily, the sound magnified in the enclosed space. I wondered, how deep does this go? And why would my father hide something so important beneath the house? After what felt like hours, I reached a small chamber. The air here was different, stale, but almost charged, like it carried an energy I couldn't explain. My eyes adjusted to the dim light coming from a crack in the wall, revealing an old wooden chest. Dust coated its surface, but it looked untouched by time. I hesitated. Something in me screamed that this chest wasn't just an ordinary hiding place. It carried history. It carried danger. But more than that, it carried answers. I knelt before it, and with a trembling hand inserted the key. The lock clicked smoothly, almost too easily. My heart pounded, my palms slick with sweat. I lifted the lid and froze. Inside were documents, photographs, and a small leather-bound journal. I picked up the journal, and the first line made my blood run cold. If you are reading this, James, then the time has come. The truth about our family, about the legacy your father carried, must be revealed. My father's handwriting, clear, firm, the kind of writing that demanded attention. I opened the journal, scanning the words that would change everything I thought I knew. It spoke of alliances I didn't understand, of enemies lurking in plain sight, and of secrets powerful enough to ruin lives. Most shocking of all, my father had been part of a clandestine group protecting something that people would kill for. I heard a faint sound behind me, a scuff, a whisper, almost like the walls themselves were alive. I froze, holding my breath. Had the intruder followed me? Or was it something else, something older, waiting in the darkness? The journal fell from my hands as a gust of cold air blew through the chamber. The candlelight I carried flickered violently, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. My heart thumped in my chest like a drumbeat of warning. Suddenly, a piece of paper slipped from the chest and landed at my feet. I picked it up. It was a map, crude but detailed, showing the tunnels beneath the house and a marked location deeper underground, labeled simply the vault. The thrill of discovery battled with fear inside me. I knew the intruder would not stop searching, but I also knew that the answers and the danger were waiting in the vault. Whatever lay ahead, it would demand courage I wasn't sure I had. I tucked the journal and map into my jacket, steeling myself. The shadows in the tunnel seemed to shift, as if aware that I was no longer just a boy searching for secrets. I was now part of the story, part of a dangerous legacy that had been hidden for decades. And somewhere above, the intruder's eyes were still searching. He knew I had found the first clue, and that my journey into the darkness had only just begun.
The map in my hand trembled almost as much as I did. Each step deeper into the tunnel felt like descending into another world, one that pulsed with history, danger, and secrets my mind could barely grasp. I could still hear the faint scuffing from above, the reminder that the intruder, or something worse, was still out there.
The walls seemed to narrow, and the air grew colder, heavier. My breath came in short, nervous gasps, echoing off the stone in a rhythm that felt too loud. I passed crude markings on the walls, symbols carved decades ago. Some looked like warnings, others like maps within maps, leading to hidden traps I didn't yet understand. I followed the map, every instinct screaming caution, until I reached a low stone archway. The words, "The Vault," were scrawled faintly in charcoal above it. My heart thumped so loudly that I half expected someone, or something, to hear it. I stepped forward, and the floor shifted. A section of stone beneath me tilted slightly, triggering a mechanism hidden in the shadows. I froze as a faint click echoed in the tunnel. Then, from the darkness ahead, a series of narrow spikes shot upward from the floor, just inches apart. My stomach lurched. A trap. My father's journals had hinted at dangers, but I hadn't imagined it would be this real. I had to move carefully. Every step, every inch demanded perfect precision. One wrong move, one misstep. I remembered the training my father had forced me through as a child. The balance, the patience, the focus. With shaking hands, I tested each stone, sliding, pivoting, holding my breath. The spikes were merciless, gleaming faintly in the candlelight, waiting like silent predators. Halfway across, I slipped. My heart leapt. I froze. Barely inches from disaster. Sweat poured down my face as I steadied myself. This is what my father meant, I realized. This isn't just a hiding place. It's a test. Finally, I reached the other side with my legs trembling, my body drenched in sweat. The archway opened into a vast chamber. The walls glimmered faintly, as if lined with metal. In the center stood a massive, reinforced door, the vault itself. I stepped closer, and the journal in my pocket reminded me of the warning. The vault is more than a place. It is a guardian. It will reveal truths only to those who are willing to risk everything. A chill ran down my spine. I had survived the first trap, but the sense of danger was far from over. The intruder could appear at any moment, and I knew I wasn't alone. Shadows seemed to stretch toward me, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. And then I saw it, a faint glow, seeping through the edges of the vault door. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. Whatever was inside could change everything. Who my father was, who I was, and perhaps even my life itself. With trembling hands, I placed the key against the door. My heart pounded in my ears, and as the lock clicked into place, the floor beneath me seemed to groan, as if warning me that crossing this threshold would awaken forces long forgotten. I pushed the door slowly, a hiss of cold air escaped, and the dim glow revealed objects I could barely comprehend. Machines, ancient artifacts, and files marked with names I recognized, but never expected. Something moved in the shadows, a whisper, a sound that didn't belong to any human. I realized with a sinking feeling, the vault was never meant to be found by the unworthy, and now they know I'm here.
Sitting on the basement floor, the letter trembling in my hands, I felt a strange mixture of grief, shock, and relief. My entire life, everything I thought I knew about myself had been a lie. But not a lie meant to harm me, a lie meant to protect me until I was ready to face the truth. My mother, Fletcher Morrison, had sacrificed everything to give me a chance at a normal life. She had carried the weight of secrets, danger, and fear for decades, all so I could grow up safe. And now, after everything I had lost, my house, my children, my reputation, I finally understood why she had done it. The phone number at the bottom of the letter burned into my mind. Marshal Theodore Vance. The chance to fight back, to reclaim my life and protect my children was finally within reach. With a deep breath, I dialed. "Marshal Vance?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "Son, I've been waiting for this call," came the calm, steady reply. And just like that, everything began to shift. The fear, the betrayal, the pain, they were still there, but they were no longer insurmountable. For the first time in months, I felt hope. I thought about Quinnland and Brena, about Cordelia, and about the life I still wanted to build. I thought about my mother, her courage, and the unbreakable love that had guided me even from beyond the grave. Sometimes, I realized, the worst things that happen to us are exactly what we need to find our true strength. My mother had known it. She had prepared me for this moment without me even knowing it. And now I would honor her sacrifice, not just by surviving, but by fighting, by reclaiming what was stolen, and by protecting the ones I loved. The road ahead would be long, dangerous, and uncertain, but I was no longer the man who had lost everything. I was Fletcher Morrison. No, Fletcher Castellano, and I was ready to finish what my mother had started. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt alive.